Welcome to today's edition of LendTech Live. Joining us today, Dan Green, Executive Vice President for Mortgage Cadence. He handles all operations and marketing. Those are two big nuts to crack, Dan.
They are.
We're going to do a deep dive. Dan's been in the industry for probably decades.
Yes, that's
Dare
fair.
I say that?
No, that's fair.
Well,
Totally fair.
he comes from a unique perspective, having been on the lending side. So he lends that into the world of technology and really helps us dovetail it all together. So today, we're going to be talking about some of the key metrics that help us pull the profit lever. Dan, let's take them one at a time. What are the key metrics that matter?
So five key metrics. This is something we've been looking at for a lot of years. We call it our benchmarking study. And we keep them purposefully to a small number, and we keep them super simple. So start to finish, velocity or number of days to close is 1. Borrower share is 2, so it's a market share metric. Pull through is 3, so the ratio of closed loans to applications. Cost to close, probably the most important one. And then productivity is the 5th.
Let's dive into number 5, productivity. Tell us what you know about productivity.
Yeah, so productivity is my favorite because it's really easy to calculate. And once we know productivity, we can estimate cost to close very closely. So productivity is simply the number of closed loans per mortgage employee per month.
So why does that metric matter?
Yeah, so it matters because labor is 60% of the cost to close. So if you can get your productivity higher, your cost to close has to drop. It's just the way the math works and always has.
Okay, so number of employees, let's start there.
Yeah.
So you're talking about institution-wide.
So in the mortgage department. So this is where it's not tricky, but it's definitionally important. So it's mortgage operations staff, mortgage production staff. So it starts with all the management that's responsible for mortgage operations, loan originators, processors, underwriters, closers, funders, QA people, secondary market professionals, all the people who it takes to get a mortgage from the application to closing and funding.
Okay.
Right.
What if you outsource a portion of that? How do you account for that
Sure.
anomaly?
So we include the outsourcers in that count.
Okay.
Yeah, so there'd be a couple ways to account for that. One of the easy ways is just to include them in the count.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what do we typically see? What do we know from our benchmark studies as to that typical ratio?
Yeah, so for our group of lenders, it's the 5-year average. We just finished this study. The 5-year average is 3.5 closed loans per employee per month. It was just about 4 for 2016 alone, so it's come back up, obviously, from the average. The MBA, by contrast, looks at like 2 closed loans per employee per month. So
that's based on their study.
Right.
Okay.
Our group is doing overall better than the MBA group. And 3.5 is great, 4 is amazing, but it can be better than that.
What can it be? What's the high end?
Yeah, so we've got a couple lenders who hit 7 and 8.
What?
Yes, who consistently hit 7 and 8, it's just a very few. But these are lenders who are very steeped in not only the technology, but the process to use the technology, and the teams they have using it are remarkable.
So technology is a very broad word.
It is.
So do they have a simplified technology process? Is it complex and they just happen to be better at technology and assessing it, or what do we know about what they're doing?
Yeah, so these technologies are relatively complex and driven mostly by the compliance environment. So what technology does a lot of things, but one of the things it's doing more of than it used to is follow the compliance rules. It helps the mortgage teams follow compliance rules. So it's relatively complex stuff. They just use it really well. They looked at the tool, they figured out how to put it to its best use, and they get the productivity because of it.
And so is that duplicable, or are these just blips, these organizations that are hitting that ratio?
Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it?
Sure, anybody.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah, well, and I say it because our benchmark study is a group of lenders who are very similar, all using the same technology. So if they're all using the same tools, anybody can do it.
So then we have this variable of people, which is sweeping, wide variable, right? So what do we know about how they're either training or attracting the right people so that they can best implement the technology?
Yes, I've talked to a few of them who are very good at this, and there's a couple of common themes. One of them is it's a team of people that's truly a team. They work together to get loans closed for their borrowers as quickly and as efficiently as they possibly can. And even though there are defined roles within the mortgage department, what they'll typically do is they'll move between functions if that's what it takes to get things done. If that's what it takes to get productivity higher, that's one. The second thing is these are teams of people who've been together for a while. So it's like any team that's been together for a while, they're good at working together. So that's the team thing is very important.
So when they're recruiting, and many lending institutions are looking to recruit younger generations, so how is it, do you think that they're integrating them in, people with less skill level or experience, into these systems that are really well defined?
Yeah, I think maybe that's we have a little less clarity on that, but I have to believe that they'll bring people in who want to learn and they're happy to teach and build them in, make them great team members. Because I think that's another element of what makes them great is they're willing to make the investment in team members to make them great.
That's a cultural thing. It's all about the culture.
Right, it's all about the culture.
I love that. Okay, so productivity, once you have that higher ratio, 7-8 being the gold standard, these guys are doing it really, really well. Is that something that any organization can achieve, or are these people at scale in terms of size of organization? Or?
So I do believe anybody can do it, right? So it's a question, if you've got a great team, you've got your technology tuned to the process you're using, and you're using the technology to its highest and best use. Anybody can do that, right? Now, that said, I do believe that once you get to 7 and 8, it gets, in this compliance environment, it's really hard to get above that. Yeah, it's very hard.
The tie line into the profitability on productivity, connect those dots for us.
Yeah, so the reason I love productivity is it's very easy to calculate. It's just a simple fraction.
Simple for you, Dan, because you're a numbers guy.
I'm a math nerd. I'm a finance nerd. Simple ratio, but here's the thing, and because we've been doing this study for so long, we know that, and this is where it gets super nerdy, cost to close and productivity are inversely related. So if productivity is high, cost to close is going to be low. And there's a formula. I mean, there's a formula that you can run productivity through, and it'll produce a cost to close that's very accurate for pretty much any lender.
And conversely, when your cost to close
is high, your productivity is going to be low.
Love it.
It works every time.
I love predictable outcomes when it comes to profitability.
Math is cool. Math works.
My son would argue that. In fact, that's
my daughter argues the same thing. Math is not cool, Dad.
Next time we'll invite our children to this discussion to talk about the merits of math in the adult world. Anything you'd like to add?
No, other than, I'll make a pitch for the benchmarking study. So we just finished 2012 to 2016. We're at the turn of the year, January, we'll start the next year's study. So we'll add a 6th year to the 5-year trend. And we want everybody to participate. So the more the better.
I love this. And do the questions evolve as time and technology and compliance evolves? Are we going deeper into the rabbit hole on these questions? Yeah,
what's really cool about this is this latest version is 5 years of the same lenders. And it's 5 interesting years in mortgage lending. If you're a mortgage nerd too, there's heavy compliance introduced during that period of time. There's fluctuations in volume and mix of business, so you can see all of that in the data. So the interesting thing about a time series is it makes you ask a lot of questions. And it's becoming more and more valuable to our customers because it makes us ask questions, them ask questions, which leads to some interesting conclusions.
It's the only way we can find solutions.
That's exactly right.
I love it. Thank you so much for all of your great work on behalf of the industry. Dan,
thank you, Pam.
Thank you for joining us on today's edition of LendTech Live. Join us 2 times weekly where we'll bring you all kinds of insights on how to improve the way you do business in the lending sector. Thanks for joining us.